I welcome you back to our ongoing trek through the pages of the Gospel of Matthew. We find ourselves in Matthew chapter 27 and verses 45 to 47. I'm going to be reading out of the Authorized Version or the King James Version. Matthew chapter 27, verse 45. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land, and unto the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Some of them that stood there, when they heard that, said, This man calleth for Elijah. The death process by crucifixion could be protracted. We have to stress this. You did not crucify someone with the intent of killing them quickly and swiftly and cleanly. That was not the point of crucifixion at all. The fact that Jesus dies relatively quickly on the cross points to the severity of his beating. The whips used in the beating were designed to tear chunks of flesh off. You do that and you will have blood loss. So it is probable that Jesus went to the cross having suffered severe blood loss, and if there were still open wounds and so on and so forth, infections, his health was very poor as he got to the cross. The physical side of crucifixion was awful. There is no way we can begin to minimize the cruelty and barbarity of it. And that is the point. Crucifixion was not just a means of killing people. It was a way of advertising. The Roman Empire is here, and you mess with us at your own peril. The act of crucifixion was also designed to be brutal psychologically. There is reason to believe that people were crucified naked. The crucifixions took place in public areas where people could see what was happening. The person who was crucified, therefore, was not just being killed, but they were open up or exposed to public shame. It was a process of humiliation also. Then we could add the mental anguish that comes within crucifixion. Understand, it wasn't a swift and quick death. Think of the annoyance of a tap that you hear at night as you're trying to sleep that just goes drip, 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 drip. And in that sense, that is the experience of a person dying on the cross. They can feel that slow but steady drip, drip, drip of life flowing away from them. And the mental anguish would be real as the hours passed as they felt death slowly, surely, steadily passing away from them. The mental aspects of crucifixion in part explains Jesus wondering where God is in all of this. Jesus, of course, is fully divine and fully human. He is not just some superhero strapped up on the cross about to take on the sins of the world. Here is a human being in all sense human. Yes, he was fully God and fully man, but he could feel his humanity impacted by this. On one level, anyone who was crucified could not help but feel that God was nowhere to be found. This is a pretty normal human response to times of extreme grief or illness. So on one level, Jesus' response is normal. Yet we see in his response something more profound and deeper happening. Jesus in that moment was accomplishing the atonement of the world. In some profound and deep way, Jesus was taking on the sin of the world. Jesus, in that sense, was coming face to face with the awful reality of what sin does, which is alienate one from the reality and presence of God. In this world, we know that many people ignore the reality of God. They are ignorant of all of the blessings that God has poured into their lives. You see, just because they deny the reality of God does not mean that they are not experiencing from God His provisions, His blessings, His grace, His mercy, His love. The problem is that people do not see that this life on earth is lived in light of God's provisions and blessings. The choices and decisions we make in our lifetime will determine our fate for an eternity. People are not able to perceive what life without God is really like in this world. There's very few experiences that allow us to have that sense like Jesus did on the cross. Jesus, in that moment of time, knew it and died for us that we may not experience it. I live in a world that loves to celebrate the idea of freedom of choice. We want in our world to allow people the option to do what they want while absolving them of the consequences of their action. The reality of sin is that the price must be paid, and it will be paid. Sin is not about morality, ultimately. It is where we will not embrace the God who loved us so much that he gave his son to die for us, that we might never be separated from him. The great tragedy of life is far too many people will go into eternity having rejected God. People will one day experience eternally what Jesus experienced in a moment of time on the cross at Golgotha. If only our loved ones could see how perilous the path that they have chosen to walk and embrace.